Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Minnesota State Park Hiking Club Trail Series. Today we traveled to Monticello, Minnesota to take the hiking club trail at Lake Maria State Park. Lake Maria has an interesting and indirect history. The park was first proposed in the late 40s, but due to land acquisition difficulties, the idea was shelved. The idea resurfaced in the early 1960s and was authorized by legislation in 1963, and the land acquisitions began. The park itself would not fully open until 1971. The focus of the park was to be on conservation, as this park represents the last vestiges of the northern border of the Big Woods, which makes it a fragment preserved of the same ancient forest that is similarly preserved south of the Twin Cities at Nurse Strand Big Woods State Park. This focus on conservation means that the campsites are primarily backpack campsites. There are several camper cabins as well, and a primitive group camp that can accommodate up to 50 people. If you're like me, you're probably curious what a camper cabin is. It's a 12 by 16 foot wooden cabin with wooden bunk beds. It doesn't have indoor plumbing, and at Lake Maria, the DNR website lists them as basic cabins, which is differentiated from the ones with electric and heat, so I'd expect that they don't have either. That being said, it's a ready-set shelter that requires no setup from your perspective. They have these across numerous of the state parks within the state. The most interesting one I'd be interested in checking out would absolutely be the Jay Cook ones, as it appears to be the only North Shore park with them. The wildlife in this park is varied, with a significant focus on birds. Roughly 205 species have been spotted within the park, including the trumpeter swans. I've only seen trumpeter swans a few times while hiking, but every time, it's quite incredible. When they take off from the water, they sound like a helicopter, and it immediately draws your attention. And of course, there's the namesake, the trumpeting sound they make. I wasn't fortunate enough to catch a view of them on this hike, but it's always nice to know there's a chance. There's also loons, herons, hawks, goldfinches, osprey, and bald eagles. There's also a wonderful trail center building that is by the main parking lot. It has bathrooms with running water and several posting boards with information around the building. The building itself is partially built into the ground, which kind of makes it feel a little bit hobbity, which is pretty cool. The ceilings are high, however. Horses! How could I forget the equine popularity of this park? There are numerous horse trails throughout the park, not unlike Forestville, which makes it a great spot for those who love to ride their horses through nature. These trails are shared with hikers and horses, with hikers having a few additional trails that are restricted from riding your horse through. Accounting for 2 miles of the hiking club, this trail starts out by the trail center, which makes a good spot to prepare for the hike and check your supplies before heading out. The bugs can be dense in the summer, but when we took the hike in early fall, there was some, but a good pace and long pants kept them from bothering us too much. There is good canopy coverage, as you shouldn't be in the sun very much, except perhaps around the lake. If for some reason the trip needs to be cut short, there is some offshoot trails that could be used to speed back. The trail reminds me of several other state parks within Minnesota for different reasons. The woods are very similar to Nurse Strand, which makes sense as they're both remnants of the Big Woods. The winding gradual changes in elevation along the trail reminded me of Glacial Lakes, a park within a similar glacially sculpted area. Maria Lake reminded me quite a bit of Rice Lake, with the high vegetation in the shallow areas of the lake. It's really fascinating on these trails once you've started to get deeper into the hiking club trails on how much they mix and match the biomes and geographical features around the state, and just how beautiful and varied the state we live in really is. It's helped by its enormity, for sure, but if you only really stay in one region of the state, you miss so much. I spent years south of the Twin Cities without really realizing how amazing the state really is. The trail circles through the forest, going through slight elevation changes before coming to Maria Lake. There is a dock and an overlook platform that allows you to look out over the lake. I didn't take a canoe out this trip, but it looks like a pleasant lake to do so. If you're luckier than I, you may spot a Blandings turtle, easily identifiable due to the bright yellow spots on its shell. The trail then loops backwards into the woods and passes through the forest, slowly returning you back to the parking lot. My favorite part of the trail is the trees. I'm always partial to the trees, but in this park, on this trail, there isn't a waterfall or anything else to really distract from the beauty of the forest. The whole hike is within the woods, except for a brief section that lets you look out over the lake. Your eyes never leave the leaves. and you'll be able to see the gnarled roots, down trees, and moss, and other small things you might otherwise miss. It's this beauty of the forest that really makes trails like this special for me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this edition of the series, let us know. Also, let us know which one you'd like to see next.